Let's get on, let's get on. Riding fire, come on now. We got up, put it out quick. That's what I'm talking about. All right.
Now put these kids to sleep, will ya? Now put these kids to sleep, will ya? Now put these kids to sleep, will ya? I think my neighbor's wet. I think the bag on my next. I wanna go hide for now. I like this red bomb. I think the bag on my next. I wanna go hide for now. I was gonna hide on now. I like this red bomb. I think my neighbor's wet. I think the bag on my next. I wanna go hide for now. I was gonna hide on now. You are the person who's always in my mood. I like this red bomb. Now put these kids to sleep, will ya? Hey, Papa, I've been good. Now can I please have my take it? I like this red bomb. Now put these kids to sleep, will ya? Papa, can I go and have the toy that make the funny sound? Mama, could I eat the food that make me feel like $1 million? I like this red bomb. The toy that make the funny sound. Mama, could I eat the food that make me feel like $1 million? I like this red bomb. Put these kids to sleep, will ya? Papa, can I go and have the toy that make the funny sound? Mama, could I eat the food that make me feel like $1 million? I like this red bomb. Like $1 million. I wanna go to the right now. Tell me that toy before that, oh, big papa. Shut up now. I'm sleepy.
Good night, little guys.
Now put these kids to sleep, will ya? Mama, 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 mama. Give me some milk, give me some food. Give me the car, I wanna go school. Now put these kids to sleep, will ya? I need to party, oh, be real naughty. Somebody hold me, somebody hug me. Mama, mama, mama. Somebody come over quick. I'm gonna start a trip. 'Cause here I go. Get to know. I am a kid with no control. Now put these kids to sleep, will ya? I think my neighbor's wet. I think the bag on my next. I wanna go hide for now. I was gonna hide over now. You are the person who's always in my mood. Now put these kids to sleep, will ya? Hey, Papa, I've been good. Now can I please have my take it? Now put these kids to sleep, will ya? Papa, can I go and have the toy that make the funny sound? Mama, could I eat the food that make me feel like $1 million? I wanna go to the right now. Tell me that toy before that, oh, big papa.
guys are cute. Come on! I never liked this stage.